When it comes to protein, it seems people in the health and longevity community either love it or hate it. They either see it as a superstar nutrient or just another role player who occasionally makes an important biological play. So, you'll be assured to hear that I'm here to tell you it's probably somewhere in the middle. The high middle. If that's a thing. And I'll tell you why. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic way. Today, we are revisiting one of the most unique and versatile macronutrients that our pretty cool meat suit needs to, well, be a pretty cool meat suit in the first place. And no, it's not ethanol, the main ingredient in your evening cocktail. It's the chain of amino acids which build, synthesize, and catalyze the amazing organism which looks back at you in the mirror every day. Hopefully with a smile. We are talking about protein and why we very likely need to pay attention to it to optimize health span or our healthy years of life as we age. Because not only does this essential nutrient play a role in building our structural self strong and stable, something that becomes increasingly critical as we age, but it also gets broken down into the building blocks which form many of the peptides, hormones, and neurotransmitters that allow all the complex biological stuff to keep operating as we watch odd, weird, highly sarcastic videos on the tube of Youb. So we're going to expand on some previous protein discussions, all of which you can find below, and talk about the current protein longevity controversy, explain why this nutrient is so important for longevity, and what the optimal consumption levels really are, along with some critically important caveats you need to know when crafting your own protein strategy. A strategy which is needed because hitting those daily protein targets ain't easy. And I'll bet that anyone who has focused on it in their own health journey would second that. But before we get to the strategy, let's start with the drama, the controversy, and the longevity indecision. When I was first diving down the longevity rabbit hole years ago, I was living my life with protein on the back burner. Still getting a fair amount, probably around 100 grams a day, but definitely not prioritizing it. And that was in part due to a series of studies, mainly animal, published by a research team out of the University of Southern California, led by Walter Longo. This team displayed that higher protein diets were correlated with shorter life and health span in animals compared to lower protein diets. Interesting, right? But why? Well, the papers argue that one of the main reasons is because a high protein diet activates a pathway called mTOR, or a protein complex which plays a critical role in cellular growth and metabolism. When mTOR is active, it leads to cell growth and division, and when it's silenced, it leads to recycling and repair. This is a delicate balance which must be modulated, as the overactivity of the mTOR pathway has shown to drive cellular growth and division out of control, not surprisingly increasing the risk of diseases such as cancer, which is obviously bad for biological business. Their data shows that a low-protein diet can help reduce the activity of mTOR and increase the activity of a family of protective enzymes called sirtuins, coined by some to be longevity genes. So me, being the longevity geek that I am, began to deprioritize protein in my daily strategy, still consuming well above the recommended daily allowance, which is the minimum requirement to prevent a deficiency, currently sitting around 0.4 grams per pound or 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day for adults. And to be completely honest, despite consuming on the lower end, I was doing fine. However, I gotta wonder, was I truly optimizing my body, especially with the active lifestyle that I was living? And was protein really a detractor when it came to cellular health and vitality over time? Well, the answer, although still being investigated, is probably somewhere in the middle. And here's why. although Dr. Longo's research is likely valid, as data is consistent when mTOR is continuously active, the likelihood of nefarious cellular and metabolic things to happen goes up. But depriving oneself of the essential building blocks which build and maintain muscle, synthesize essential peptides, hormones, and neurotransmitters, facilitate critical chemical reactions, build antibodies, prevent frailty and the complications which come with it, may not be the optimal strategy either. Just like everything else in this complex biological world, the right answer is likely in the middle and depends on an individual's unique lifestyle variables. And that's what researchers out of Waseda University in Japan have stumbled upon as well in an interesting new animal study. Here, researchers sought to see what levels of dietary protein were needed to improve metabolic health in mice approaching old age. To do this, they fed isocaloric diets with varying amounts of protein, ranging from 5 to 45% of total energy to young and middle-aged mice, assessing skeletal muscle weight, liver and plasma lipid profiles, and amino acid profiles for a period of 2 months, ultimately finding that mice were more metabolically healthy when fed moderate protein diets in the range of 20 to 35%. Observing that the consumption of a low-protein, high-carbohydrate diet led to the development of a mild fatty liver, with increased levels of hepatic lipids in the middle-aged mice, all while a moderate protein diet led to reduced blood glucose concentrations and lipid levels in both liver and plasma, indicating that a moderate protein diet ranging from 20 to 35% kept both young and middle-aged mice metabolically healthier. Pretty interesting. Now, understanding the clear limitations of being an animal model and short in duration, these results certainly make you ponder. I mean, if a 180-pound man and a 150-pound woman eating 3,000 and 2,500 calories a day were to follow the minimum to prevent a deficiency RDA, it would equate to 65 and 54 grams of protein per day. But if they were to make it 25% of their daily dietary consumption, it would be 187 and 156 grams per day. Just a tiny 3x difference. So the question becomes, how can we find a middle ground and get enough to optimize our daily bodily functions while minimizing the potential for nefarious cellular actors to prevail? Well, with some solid routines, habits, and rituals, of course. Let's explore. Throughout the past decade, a growing body of evidence has revealed that dietary protein intake above the recommended daily allowance is beneficial in maintaining muscle function, mobility, and in the treatment of diseases such as obesity, osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and scarpopenia. And yeah, I noticed too, that list has got a lot of big names on it. And as we know from this video and many more on the topic, muscle is our best friend when it comes to fighting off the diseases of aging, being a necessity for staying as functional as possible for as long as possible. Oh, and for looking cool in your underwear. But that's a given. Of course. The thing is, adequate protein is not only a driver for that, it's a straight up necessity. Because once we hit our 30s, the growth hormones of youth begin to settle down, and maintaining skeletal muscle tissue goes from autopilot to, if you don't use it, you lose it, making the quantity, quality, and timing of protein increasingly important. So here are some key considerations to keep in mind while building your own ideal strategy, and things I wish I figured out years ago. First, let's start at the individual meal level. Research suggests that adults require a minimum of 15 grams of essential amino acids, or at least 30 grams of protein per meal, to fully stimulate skeletal muscle protein synthesis. This is the minimum that is needed to breach what is known as the leucine threshold, or an essential amino acid which triggers the activation of the cellular growth pathway mTOR we were just talking about. And you may be thinking, is mTOR good or bad? What is it? And the answer is, it could be both, depending on the context. We need this pathway for life. The trick is modulating its activity in a controlled and safe way. One of the ways I like to do this is by consuming all of my energy in a strategic feeding window each and every day. A strategy I highlight here. This allows me to stimulate cellular growth and then turn it off for an extended overnight fast. A strategy which helps keep mTOR in check, especially compared to the modern societal norm of consuming energy throughout the entire waking day. Ultra-processed, nutrient-scarce energy. Now, despite first instinct, just going ham on protein all at once isn't an optimal strategy either. Although higher amounts of dietary protein may further improve net protein synthesis, it seems there is a max benefit somewhere between 60 and 90 grams. And when that threshold is hit, excess protein is likely converted to glucose, thus making it advantageous to spread your protein intake across meals. So I like to strategically position high protein meals at the beginning and end of my feeding window. In fact, a recent study looked into how humans respond to even and uneven protein distribution across 3 meals, finding that the group that had 3 even distributions of 30 grams of protein per day had a 25% higher muscle protein synthesis rate compared to the group that had 10 grams for breakfast, 15 grams for lunch, and 65 grams for dinner. I know. Are you beginning to realize why strategy may be important here? Another big variable here is one's activity levels, with more physical activity typically warranting more protein consumption. And get this, activity can even help with protein utilization, as adding activity snacks after meals can increase the rate of protein uptake into skeletal tissue for muscle protein synthesis, providing a better post-meal utilization rate. And the best part is, these snacks are freaking easy. 5 minutes of light walking, stretching, mobility, or body weight work have been shown to make a difference and help you avoid the food coma, of course. When it is all said and done, the rough estimates for an adult looking to optimize their pretty cool meat suit for longevity land somewhere around 1.6 grams per kilogram or 0.8 grams per pound of body weight of high quality protein consumption per day, assuming the individual is moderately active and eating a high quality healthy diet, which unfortunately is a stretch for the average intelligent walking ape in this modern world, because excess simple carbohydrates from ultra-processed eating, in combination with overly large protein meals from lower quality sources, followed by hours of sedentary behavior, is not going to create a friendly cellular and metabolic situation. In fact, it'll likely do the opposite, one in which mTOR is constantly active, to the point where risk for uncontrolled growth begins. Yeah, totally not cool for longevity school. So here's a summary of my tactical approach to get the best of both worlds. First, I consume all of my energy in a 6 to 8 early feeding window, starting with a high protein meal, typically 60 to 80 grams following a morning workout, and post meal I get in a leisurely walk for an activity snack. A few hours later, I go with a moderate protein meal of 30 to 50 grams, and finally, finishing the feeding window out with another high protein meal or shake, adding 40 to 60 grams to my daily totals. At this point, I close my window, typically somewhere around 3 p.m., and give my body plenty of time to rest and digest before bed, allowing mTOR to shut down and the body to enter a deep state of repair and rejuvenation overnight. My goal here is to capture the best of both worlds, a high protein yet controlled cellular proliferation world, building and maintaining muscle mass, keeping my mitochondria strong and flexible, while activating all of the longevity pathways that fasting brings to the table. Is it perfect? Certainly not. Could it change tomorrow with the release of new game-changing data? Absolutely. Is it the most optimal strategy for you? Probably not, but that's for you to figure out. As you know from all of our other powwows, the best strategy is the healthy one that you can sustain. These are just some protein thoughts to noodle on. And wouldn't you know it, adequate protein happens to help with that too. Just saying.